AI is already replacing work that used to belong to coaches, consultants, therapists, copywriters, graphic designers. The list goes on. And if this feels like it's something that you can relate to, I need you to listen closely because this is no longer a marketing problem anymore. This is a survival strategy. And there's an old quote that explains how and why some people adapt. It's actually from a biologist, Charles Darwin. He says it's not the smartest or the most intelligent species that survives, it's the one that can best adapt to change. And that directly applies to entrepreneurs, consultants, content creators in this AI era that we're in. And so in this video, I'm going to guide you through a framework to help you become irreplaceable and to truly position yourself for success for the next years and decades to come. By the way, this is just one of 6 pillars inside my 6 pillar framework. This is the positioning one, but if you would like a deep dive into all 6 of these to help you truly become bulletproof, then there is a link down below where you can download my free playbook. So I know how many of you are feeling. Maybe revenue is stalling, maybe you're working so hard to keep up with all the AI updates, and maybe you're just really exhausted. I actually recently made this drawing to represent how some people might feel right now. I even recently saw a Facebook post from someone in my network, and they said that some days I just want to shut it all down. And they were referencing how overwhelming AI is and just how quickly it's changing the industry. And I want you to know that you're not alone. I felt that way too. And the turn for me was developing this framework and actually having a strategy. Yes, of course, mindset is important, but strategy is where you really put your pedal to the metal and where you can really see the results happen. And so I want to guide you through 5 main parts of my framework here, starting with the first one. This one is actually something that you can do really quickly and it can make results really remarkably fast. And that is demonstrating your proof. This is what you have that AI can never have because you have like think of your industry. You're an expert, you have maybe worked with clients or maybe you've gotten the results for yourself. You have that proof. And right now, information is cheap, right? Like anyone can look up and find info, but if you have undeniable testimonials or case studies or even work samples, that will do more than any AI can even see. And that's why even on my channel, I do interviews with past clients where they actually say for themselves their experience working with me. And you can check out their website, you can check out anything, and people know that that's a real human being. And so I encourage you, this depends on your niche. I'd either get on to video interviews with your clients, put some case studies, and you want this to be the thing that people see first thing in your posts on your website. And even if you take sales calls with people, show them the results that you've gotten for people. If you run ads, put them in the ads. And I'm telling you, this is what will get people to trust you, and this will keep your business going. Second main thing I want to talk about is presence, specifically that human presence that, again, no AI can ever deliver. And so you want to make your process, your content, your work delivery, your whole brand more human, not less. And so one shift that I did was in my group program, I used to give written out feedback. So people would submit material, that they wanted feedback on, and then I used to type it out. But then I started doing voice recordings and even screen sharing recordings, and that was so valuable, and that's what keeps my clients from coming back because that's something, again, that no AI can give. And it's more valuable now more than ever. That's human feedback because we all know that AI can even be wrong. I even sometimes experiment asking ChatGPT and Claude the same thing, but they give completely different advice. So then it's like, who do you pick? It's better to find someone who has that human presence and who actually has walked the walk. They don't just talk the talk. They've gotten results for people. And so think of your niche. Maybe it's time to introduce a group program. Maybe you can do more in-person events, maybe more interaction, maybe even in your sales calls if you used to just do mainly, some people do sales via email or text. Maybe, experiment having a human component where you call them or get onto video. Third main thing in this framework is perspective. How can you really deliver that perspective that you have that no AI can replace. And there's a couple main parts to this. One, I recommend that you have a framework for your niche if you don't have one already, kind of like how I have my 6 pillars. This is unique to my brand, and it shows my unique perspective very clearly so that people can have a sense in an instant what it is that I guide people through. And the other aspect of this is try to insert your human perspective. And so I really encourage you not just to stand as an expert in your niche, through your content, through your website, but when you're talking to people, when you're making content, try to really integrate that human element. And I like to use the word thought leadership for this. This doesn't have to just be in your niche. Try to really embrace what it is that you love, even if it's outside of your niche. For example, on my Instagram and in my shorts, what I'm doing is I am just reading books and I'm sharing my top insights. Why? Because first off, it's something that I genuinely love, my sharing my perspectives, but also it gets people to know my thinking. It gets people to know what I'm reading, what I'm up to, and so people gets to really connect with me, the human, not just my technical advice that I deliver in AI resilient creators. So I encourage you to do that as well. How can you be original? How can you think of a framework or how can you embrace your thought leadership? Next main thing is pivot. Now, before you pivot away from this video, I know sometimes when people hear this, they're like, oh my gosh, I built a whole identity around my niche. I don't want to give it up. And pivot doesn't mean, first off, that you failed. And pivot also doesn't have to mean changing directions drastically. It could just mean expanding or just shifting a little bit. For example, I used to mainly focus on teaching others how to get leads and sales through YouTube videos like this. You don't need a lot of views, you just have to have a free resource, kind of like how I had in the beginning of this video with my playbook. And so that's what I was mainly focusing on. But ever since AI came about, I'm like, there's way more to this than that. And so that is just one part of my 6 pillars platforms. That's where I teach about YouTube and creating long form content, but I've expanded that. And so maybe for you, maybe you too will just expand, or maybe you just pivot slightly. For example, I know the photographer here in San Diego, and they used to focus on headshots for business owners. But turns out that a lot of business owners are simply using ChatGPT to make headshots in seconds. And so they thought to themselves, okay, what is a type of photo that nobody will want to turn to AI for? Weddings, right? Like if it's someone's wedding day, they don't want to go to AI and say, okay, give me some photos of me and my spouse at my wedding. No, that's something that people are always going to want to have the original version for. And so sometimes this takes some creativity and thinking outside the box, but I'm sure that whatever it is that you're doing, then you could think of something. And last but not least, I encourage you to think in processes. This is actually number 6 of my pillars. This is where you really integrate AI, not to replace your creativity and your voice, but just to take some of the grueling things off of your plate. Now, the whole point of this video isn't to say F you to AI and to avoid it completely. You do want to use it effectively for the grueling and the repetitive so that you can be more free for being you, so you could do more, earn more, be more. And so think of those repetitive tasks that take up a lot of your time. And I encourage you, you could even start with my video right here, to understand how AI works and perhaps even think of how you can automate some of your work to AI. Some last things I want to leave you with is, again, try to think outside the box. Ask yourself, what would make someone say, I have to learn from this person, not just a course or turning to AI. What's that thing that makes you unique? And I'm sure if you sit with that, even if you can't think of it right now, try to sit with it. Try to ask other people in your network or see what other people in your industry are doing and model that. Get ideas. And again, this is why I have AI resilient creators. It's because that resilient is important. Thinking outside the box and thinking, okay, how can I stand in my leadership throughout this time and not let AI be something that brings me down, but rather something that lifts me up? And so if you want to go deeper into my process, again, grab that free playbook, but you can also apply today for AI resilient creators. This is where I help you become the brand that AI cannot replace by really leaning into your lived experience, things that AI cannot replace, but also integrating it strategically so that, again, it frees up your time and you can focus more on things that you want to do to get to this side of the bridge where you have income coming in, you're focused on family connection, serving, and you're not over here overwhelmed, struggling, revenue stalling, and leads and sales plateauing. So again, there's a link down below, and I cannot wait to see many of you on the inside.